Oh. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Malignant Young Pop guiding inside my chest, ladies and gentlemen. Man, you snuck up on me. I was over here, doing my little stuff, my little side work. As you guys do know, we are playing the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. We are in the Blitz section, so we're in the faster games. I do have a Wesley So versus Jeffery Xiong game. Round 15. As always, my people in the Philippines, I will say mabuhay. And I will say hello, Ulit. Trying to say hello again. That's what it showed me it was. So feel free to let me know if I messed that up. And I will get it fixed. Appreciate you guys very much. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan. Kumusta na? Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Anybody else from around the world, thank you very much. If you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we have for this game. So we got D4, D5, C4, C6. So this is a Slav. So for my guy Ronaldo, it's a Slav. It's a Slav, bro. Man, okay. So be scared, I guess, now. Being a Slav. Like, the Slav is beatable. You gotta believe in yourself. So we got knight to F3. We got knight to F6. We got E3. We got bishop to F5. So we're planning on getting our bishop outside the pawn chain here. We do see knight to C3. We got E6. Knight comes to H4 because we're trying to harass this bishop. Once you close the bishop out with E6, this bishop is subject to some harassment. So the bishop comes to E4. Of course, we're trying to, if we take back here, we're trying to take back here with the knight. So we got F3, bishop back to G6. Queen comes to B3. Seeing if this pawn is ticklish. We see queen to C7, bishop to D2, bishop to E7, pawn takes D5, pawn takes D5. We got long castles by white, and it looks a little bit strange because you do have this queen, like, pretty much separated from the king by just the knight, but you're actually pretty safe in the position. So we got knight to C6. Knight takes G6, pawn takes G6. Of course, you guys know you could not make this king to B1 move with this bishop protecting that square. So you had to get rid of it. So we see king to B1. We got A6. Bishop comes to D3. King goes to F8. Shocking, I know. King goes to F8. All right, rook comes to C1. As you guys are always familiar with, putting the rook opposite a queen or a king is usually beneficial to you. So rook comes to B8. And this is the novelty of the game. We've seen rook to C8 before in a game or two, I think. So rook to B8 is a brand new move. You're just trying to give this pawn a lot of support if it does push. So knight comes to E2, and we actually see rook takes H2. And it might kind of seem like this is dropping a pawn, which it physically is, but this is actually a really nice position for white. We have rook takes H2, queen takes H2, and we have E4. And it's crazy because this position, even though you are down an entire pawn by white, it is giving over a pawn's worth of an advantage from the computer. The computer says you're plus like 1.3. So it's pretty crazy. You have a little bit of tactics in the position as white. We got pawn takes E4, pawn takes E4, and something that you have to make sure that you're paying a close attention to is the fact that, the queen right now is holding this rook. So if the queen, messes up, you actually can take this knight here, and you're going to be just winning an entire piece because you can't take back because of this pin right here. So, you kind of have to be a little delicate. We see rook over to D8. Queen takes B7, and this is crushing. White is crushing from what the computer's saying in this position. You got this pawn that's hanging, this knight is hanging. You have the ability to grab a pawn, but you just have some really, really nice play here as white. We see knight takes D4. We got knight takes D4, rook takes D4, and then we have rook up to C8 with check. And if we actually back up, just take a look at the position again after knight takes D4. One of the pieces for white that you'll notice isn't really doing a lot is this bishop. It's kind of it's not oddly placed, but, it definitely has the ability to try to come out and do something crazy. But so actually in the position, we actually had bishop to B4 that was possible. And this is putting black in kind of a pickle because not only are you, you do have your knight that's capable of being taken, you are threatening just the immediate queen takes e7 with check, forcing the king over and then allowing us to get just an entire rook. But the problem is, I mean, there really isn't a lot of great that you can do in the position. But if you do take here, of course, you're going to be taking b4 check with check. King is going to go over to g8, and then you have knight taking d4. And as you guys can see, you are up an entire piece. You're down a pawn, but you are up a piece. So, I mean, black is going to be able to get a pawn back, but that's about the best they can do. So, like I said, we did have rook to c8 with check. Rook comes to d8 blocking. Bishop comes to a5 just harassing this rook further. And this is pretty nasty. I mean, these bishops are just complete monsters. The queen comes to g1 with check. We see rook down to c1, getting a nice attack on the queen. So we have queen up to d4. We see bishop takes a6. And, you know, white has gotten their pawn back. More importantly, they do have two completely... Let me do this right. We have two completely passed pawns for white. So, I mean, it's looking pretty scrumptious. So the rook comes to d7. We got queen to b8 with check. Knight comes to e8, and we have bishop to b5. And like I said before, these bishops are monsters, man. Like, look at the penetration that's going on. This king is, like, not the most comfortable on f8. We got queen taking e4 with check. King sidesteps to a1. That's why sometimes it can benefit you to castle queenside, because you do have these, like, two squares that you can sidestep to. When you castle queenside, you only have the one. So sometimes you can get in a pickle. Queen comes up to b7. And, you know, we are trying to get a trade going. You know, it's going to be, you know, you are up a pawn, like I said, as black. So if you can go into a queen trade, you know, you do kind of have a little bit of a benefit with there being an extra pawn. This one is completely passed, so we got to be paying attention to that. We see queen down to h2, because why not threaten mate in one? As you guys know, if this queen can come up here, they deliver a checkmate because of the, you know, the way the king is positioned. So, you know, as I always say, unless you're about to get checkmated yourself, if you threaten mate, you know, you're just doing A-okay. We see bishop to f6. Queen comes to h8 with check. We see king to e7. We got bishop to b4 with check. Knight covers with d6. And you see there, like, you know, like, black is kind of running out of moves to, like, you know, parry these checks. So we actually have bishop takes d6. And you definitely don't want to fall victim to something like this. And that is checkmate in one. So we are forced to take with the king. So the king takes on d6. We see rook to d1 with check. And this is, I mean, this is getting nasty, man. Like, I mean, we got king to c5. We got rook takes d7. And, you know, we just dropped an entire piece. This queen is hit. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and see what black plays in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, so for those of you that are noticing that the position is very, very desperate and dire, you need a desperado move. That is just one of the tactics that we have at our disposal. You know, when you're like pretty much dying, you know, you just need to like just kind of just keep swinging and just toss something out there, man. You never know. So what we actually see black playing this position, and congratulations if you found like the best move, even though black is like insanely losing, the best move that black can make. And it is bishop takes b2. And you actually have to be kind of careful as white, because you don't want to accept this this sacrifice. What we see in the game is king to b1. You definitely want to do this, because if we look at the alternative, king takes b2, we see queen taking b5 with check, king comes to c3, and then queen takes d7, and now you are just like completely losing the game, because you have 4 pawns versus your 2, and you're just not winning this as white. So we definitely don't want to fall into that. So we see king to b1. Queen checks on e4, and now we capture the bishop because we don't have all the checks that we had a minute ago. So queen comes to b4 check, and you can sidestep it now with king to c2. And I mean, if the queen captures on b5, you have the ability to at least move your rook out of the way now. Or, more importantly, unless I'm missing something, you have a check here, and then the king is going to be forced either up here or down here, and you got this rook swinging over. So you're going to be winning some nice material. So like I said, after queen to e4, we do see rook backing up to d3. Queen takes g2 with check. King comes to b3. We see queen to b7, and then we see queen to e8. And this is just saving the day. You know, you can definitely go into a trade like this, and this is going to be just like, you know, beautiful for you, because now you're going to be able to start to break up these pawns. Like, I mean, you can, it doesn't really matter what you do. You're going to be losing one of these 2 pawns, you know, whatever the situation is. So this is just favorable for white completely. So like I said, we did get into queen to e8. And it is in this position that Jeffery Xiong did resign the game. I mean, as you guys can see, you're just down way too many pieces. And there's just not really much that you can do as black in this position. So really nicely played game by Wesley. So it seemed pretty risky in the middle there. I mean, because it kind of seemed like, you know, white was starting to, you know, black was starting to kind of get a little bit of material for white. But, you know, it's leave it to these super GMs, man, to get crazy with it, right? So... All right, so for all my people in the Philippines, get these good morning. So, maanyong buntag, mayad na agahan, naibeg na bigat, masantos ya kawason, marhe na aga. Buenos dias, maayong aga, mapia na uma, kapiang kapuno dios, mayap abak, mapia agay, mayad na aga, mapia kapapita, my big abukla, marja na buntag, marya may na, malpe na aga, kasanyangan si ilabi, salam, assalamu alaikum, and merci to you. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. All of my people from anywhere in the world, but you know, my people in the Philippines, I would say Makita Tayo Mamaya and Pa Alam, and I will see you guys next time.